So,
Remember.
yep. So we will now consider an amendment to the UUA Bylaws, Section 4.8, changing the requirements for religious educators to be granted voting delegate status at General Assembly by removing the requirement that religious educators must have master's level credential status. All other voting requirements remain the same. The amendment was proposed by the Liberal Religious Educators Association. The Board of Trustees has incorporated some of the amendments offered in the mini-assembly. Please refer to the screen rather than the program book so that you have the complete list of changes. Handouts are available for those who need them, and the unincorporated amendments will be at the bottom of the paper copies. I recognize the delegate at the pro mic to make the motion on voting for religious educators.
Hi, I'm Robin Pugh. I'm a delegate of the Church of the Larger Fellowship. I'm the religious educator at the Unitarian Universalist Church at Washington Crossing. I'm also vice president of Loretta. I move that we amend the bylaws to give religious educators who are active members of Loretta and employed by congregations delegate status.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you.
Good morning, General Assembly. So those of you who were with us yesterday noticed that we're creating a little bit of time for each of our proposals for you all to engage in conversation, reflection, and dialogue briefly with one another. This will be for a 3-minute period, and we'd like to invite you into such a time of dialogue and reflection with those seated near you, so no need to go further afield than that. And our question that we invite you to be in conversation and reflection around is, what are the roles and privileges of delegates at General Assembly?
Yes, it is. Yeah, well,
Thank you, delegates. We invite you to come back together as a larger community as our co-moderator, Alandria Williams, leads us in moderating this conversation.
So I recognize the delegate at the pro mic.
Hi, my name is Robin Pugh. I am a CLF delegate and an employee at the Unitarian Universalist Church at Washington Crossing. This is an amazing day for religious educators. For over 50 years, religious educators have been asking for delegate status, and this is the first time this vote has made it to the floor. Why do we need this bylaw amendment? Religious educators are encouraged not to be members of our congregations because of healthy boundaries and best practices. So we can't be a congregational delegate. Today, we are living into our Unitarian Universalist values, especially the fifth principle about the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process. Or as religious educators teach our children, each person deserves a voice and a vote. So what we're proposing is that automatic delegate status be given to active members of Loretta who are employed by a congregation. We want religious educators, delegates, to be held accountable, and Loretta is the organization that can support that accountability. It has a code of conduct, professional accountability, and ongoing professional development. An active member is a category of membership that requires a religious educator to be working in a congregation for 3 years. Our prophetic faith is going to be mirrored right now with this vote. It is about damn time.
I recognize the delegate at the procedure mic.
This question is from Michael Harris, Cedar Lane, Unitarian Universalist Church, Bethesda, Maryland. Point of information, if this passes, what would the percentage mix be of professional versus lay delegates?
That is a good question. I recognize, you can't do it yet. I recognize the delegate at the pro mic.
We think that the active members is about 300 people. So the ratio, 900 ministers, 300 religious educators, 4,000 congregational delegates.
Is there any other off-site? There's one. Do you want to read it? I recognize the delegate at the pro mic.
Okay. I'm reading for John Cavallero, Community UU Congregation, White Plains, New York. It is time to welcome religious educators into the UU decision-making procedure. Best practice recommends again congregational membership for DREs, and thus they are not eligible for delegate designation by their congregation. DREs are committed to the work of faith, are more informed than most congregational leaders, and bring valuable voice to the process.
I recognize the delegate at the con mic. Maybe.
Madam Moderator, I do not like standing at this con mic, but
Can you state your name?
Paula,
and the congregation?
Reverend Paula Majorano of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Newark, Delaware. I just realized this morning that you do not have to be a UU to be a member of Laredo. And I find that automatically having non-UU delegates is not something I can support.
I recognize the delegate at the pro mic.
Good morning. My name is Annalie Derlin-Jones, and I am from the Thomas Jefferson Memorial Church, Unitarian Universalist in Charlottesville, Virginia. I'm also a senior business manager, so I'm here with about 100 of my closest friends. We, as the UUA 2018 Youth Caucus, want to state our support for delegate status for our active religious educators. We, as our religious educators, have helped us to grow into the Unitarian Universalist youth that we are today, and we have witnessed that this mentorship is ministry. Our religious educators have been on the forefront of institutionalized change, demonstrated through our OWL curriculums, which have educated us to be smarter, safer, and more aware about ourselves. Our religious educators have led us in the fight for collective liberation by creating 2 white supremacy teach-ins. They have helped us to lovingly call each other back into covenant and to live our faith as Unitarian Universalists. Our religious educators have performed life-changing and life-saving work, which has an influential impact on not only the youth, but everyone within our congregation. Our religious educators helped to give us youth a voice in our congregations, and now we believe that it is time that our congregations further recognize the work of our religious educators. They deserve to receive automatic delegate status, particularly as they amplify our voices, often more than our ministers do. Therefore, the Youth Caucus staff of GA and all of Youth Caucus hold that our religious educators deserve the delegate status that represent the support of a congregation and the right to vote in general sessions. We want to thank our religious educators for all the work they have done and will do to support youth voices, and that we believe that in order to support religious educators' voices in General Assembly, we must give them their rightfully deserved automatic delegate status.
I recognize the delegate at the procedure mic.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Alberg from First Unitarian Church of Providence, and I would like to call the question.
All righty. So are we ready to call the question? So if you are ready to call the question, please raise your voting cards. All righty. Thank you. Please put your cards down. If you are not ready to call the question, please raise your voting cards. All righty. All those in favor, please raise your voting cards. All those opposed? Okay. I got it. Okay, I think everyone knows. I really don't like Robert's rules, but here we go. So we are voting on the motion whether to pass status no. We did the previous vote to call the question. It was overwhelmingly. What? I'm trying. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. We didn't do that. Okay. So we are waiting on the offside vote to call the question. So we're going to start again. It's very early, I'm sorry. So can we please vote one more time if you're ready to call the question? I can't see the screen. Okay, thanks. All righty, please put your cards down. If you are not ready to call the question. Thank you. Now we just need to wait on the offside delegates. And while we're waiting, I recognize the delegate at the procedure mic.
Bruce Wiggins, First Unitarian Society of Milwaukee. Can we get up on the screen the wording of what we're actually voting on?
Yes.
Thank you.
while we're waiting for that information, if you are somebody who's voting and are sitting on the far ends and have the ability and willingness to move closer to the middle, it will make it a lot easier for us to see your votes.
So 77% in favor. All righty, now we're calling the question. So, if you, Oh, okay, love you too, thank you. So, if you are voting in favor for giving delegate status to religious educators who are members of Laredo, please raise your voting cards. Thank you, please put them down. If you are not in favor, please raise your voting cards. Thank you. Now we just have to wait for the off-site delegates. We do not actually have to call for abstentions, but I will do that. If you were abstaining, please raise your delegate card. Thank you. We are waiting on the off-site. What is the number say? I can't read. 93% in favor. It passes.